PhD in Progress, Episode 11. This week, we talk about dating in grad school and discuss online dating, maintaining relationships, and lessons we've learned along the way. Let's go!
Have other fires pop up where...
So it's a thunder fire.
Now you see why
Sweet.
like ancient people were freaked out of their freaking minds because there'd be a fire and then clouds come over and then there's lightning and they're like, the thunder lightning god is trying to kill
Zeus,
me.
What did you do? What did we do to piss you off?
Kill some virgins. I'll take care of everything.
But the entrails say you have to kill 4 virgins.
We'll do 5.
Okay. Just to be safe. Oh, that must have been too many. We have to do exactly 4.
Oh boy. Alright.
Wow.
Yep, let's go. Welcome back to the PhD in Progress podcast.
Where we talk about killing virgins.
No, damn it. Welcome back to the PhD in Progress podcast, where we talk about your education, your career, and your life. I'm Jason.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Nikhil.
And today we get to have some fun because we've had some kind of slightly downer episodes over the last few weeks. I mean, Abigail defended, so that was kind of happy. And then we had Doug, who chose to leave grad school.
I think that's a happy thing. I mean,
it was a happy thing, but it was kind of like a very deep, heavy episode.
It did. It made my heart sink a little bit listening to that.
I think everybody has a moment, or many, that where they feel that kind of existential crisis.
Oh, of course they do. I hope they do, a little bit.
And
makes you feel alive.
Healthy to question.
Right. And listening to Doug talk about his own experience, I think, sort of evokes those feelings, in me at least, and probably in our listeners as well.
Yeah. Definitely had a couple of comments through Reddit about that, where they're like, yeah, a lot of what Doug said really resonated with me and how I felt when I was in grad school. So,
I
appreciate
said the same thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. So today we get to talk about dating in grad school and relationships and maintaining relationships and all those lovely things that come with that.
Ooh, love.
Yeah. Summer loving.
I see this as an opportunity just to poke fun at everybody in this room.
Oh boy. Great.
No, I'm kidding.
I'll let you poke.
Yeah, we have to be very, very humble to retell these embarrassing stories.
Man. Yeah.
That's true.
Plenty
of embarrassing stories.
Yeah, we're very happy with where we're at right now to be retelling these stories.
Yes. No one's in a very bad place now, I hope. Right? Okay, good. Because we'll be getting a little personal. Not too much so, I don't think, but we'll be talking about our experiences and how we feel. So, that said, this episode's going to be very subjective, and we'd love to hear what you've gone through and how you've been in your pursuit of love in grad school. Feel free to comment and email us, and maybe we'll revisit the topic. We sure will revisit the topic later on. Okay, so we had this episode because dating in grad school can be kind of tricky, right? There are so many grabs for your attention on the research front, on your work front, your studying front. How do you have the time and energy to then go out and try to meet someone and start a relationship if that's what you want to do? It can be kind of demanding and kind of difficult.
I mean, dating's kind of like a second job there for a while, you know?
Yeah.
You schedule dinner dates maybe once a week with new people that you're meeting online and having to talk to or have met elsewhere, and you're spending all this time texting with this person. Then you finally go out on a date with them and it's like, oh God, you're terrible. And then you have to do it all over again the next week. And so you're spending these hours outside of your work having to work at building relationships. So while you're in this active sort of dating process, it's a real drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is work. It takes time, it takes energy, and it's really risky. I think that's part of what makes it maybe frustrating for some people is that, you know, they put all this effort and time into this particular endeavor in case dating one person, and if it doesn't work out, you feel like you've wasted all that time. And you could have used it on your research or something, right?
Which, funny enough, that experience kind of correlates with research oftentimes, right? Where you invest so much time in one particular experiment, and you wish at the end you kind of invested in another experiment because it never really paid off.
So you're saying the phrase "married to your work" might have a little more merit than
one of those forced marriages that that you might not. You had a choice, but you didn't realize what you were getting into. So, so today we want to cover three kind of main topics about dating in grad school. One was online versus offline dating. The second was maintaining relationships and work-life balance. And the last one we'll talk about is maybe mistakes we experienced or different stories we might have to share. That way you can make fun of all of us on our website and email and Twitter. All right. So first, let's talk about online and offline dating. So who wants to start?
Well, I think Jason.
Just shaking my
Jason,
head.
you should start since I think you probably have
Oh boy.
the most experience in both of these.
Not so much both, I don't think.
But you've done both,
I've done both.
and you've
for
done both
sure.
recently.
Fairly recently.
Recently enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came into grad school with a relationship that ended fairly soon after I came into grad school. It was a long distance thing, and it was actually a fairly new relationship too, and so that wasn't really going that way anyway, and we weren't that close, to be honest. So eventually, after having a rough month of a breakup and in my first year of grad school in middle of winter when it was really cold and icy and all this stuff,
You just want someone to snuggle with
Yeah.
the blankets.
that would have been nice.
So you got a cat.
So no, that was the year after, but but then I started exploring what it would be like to start dating online, and this is something that actually my sister met her husband online years ago. They got married in like 2006, I think. And so I was kind of familiar with what it would be like. I was a child of growing up on the internet, essentially, right? Our generation kind of did that. So I was familiar with risks and what it'd be like. And so I decided to just put myself out there and go on a website and...
Yeah, do you think there's a stigma associated with online dating because it's online and it's somehow perceived as less authentic?
I think there used to be. I think now our generation's basically, at least where we are in fairly suburban to urban areas, it's pretty regular. Most people I know who are dating have at least online dated for a little bit. Besides, yeah.
Now, what kinds of sites are people using? Are you paying to find love? Are you doing it for free? Are you doing it on a phone app?
I have never paid for online dating. And to be completely honest, I've only had pretty good experiences doing so.
Because he's really good looking.
I'm really good looking. No. From what I've learned talking to women I've been on dates with and friends and everything, I've actually took time to fill out my profile, write meaningful messages to people, and that alone, as a guy who's trying to date a female, puts you above most, like 90% of the other people.
Puts you above
from
the
I've heard.
creepers.
Yes, the creepers.
Yes.
So I got myself out of the creeper territory, which was nice. And I had, maybe I've been on around a dozen dates from the internet. And it's not that many, I don't think, compared to some other people. Your experience probably depends on how densely populated your area is and how far you're willing to travel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people in a place like New York City have way more opportunities than even someone here in Princeton. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but-
and sometimes in those urban environments, it's even better to go online dating because then you can filter through all the mess that you would perhaps see at a bar. You see a guy that's cute and you're like, oh, I want to go talk to him. But online, you can say, okay, this guy's cute and we have common interests and I know he has a college degree. Like, you filter through all the things that you want or don't want in a partner right then and there on the webpage.
Mm-hmm. And he's single. I mean, that's important too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So that's I guess one of the big advantages of online dating is it's a little more transparent and it's more direct.
Yes.
You know, you sort of lay yourself out there for the world to see, and you know, I guess if you're open and honest, you might receive the same openness and honesty from the people out there.
That's what you hope for, honesty, right? Because I don't know if any of you guys have experienced, or you have any friends that know of that have experienced going on a date and the person not being who they said they were online.
Only anecdotally.
Okay.
And so, I guess I can't say that much about that stuff. I have had female friends who went on dates and then found out later that the guy was either engaged or married. I forget which one it was, but
Ooh.
yeah.
Mm.
And so that was a thing. Apparently that's not super uncommon, and so I don't know how you control for that. You kind of... So one of the other pros of online dating is that you do get to talk to... If you're waiting to go on a date, you can email back and forth for a little bit. You know, you don't have to rush into it the second you meet the person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Can you talk about, I guess, the amount of effort online dating takes versus offline? Do you think it's more or less the same, or is it just a different type of effort?
I think it's a different type of effort.
I would agree.
Both are kind of stressful in my case, anyway. And I had fun, so I can say this from a place where I know I always had friends around me, so I was never really lonely. And it was nice to hang out with my friends, and then I could talk to them about dating or whatever. Most of my friends were engaged or whatever at the time anyway. But the effort part really goes into, you know, you sit down for an hour to make a really nice profile, and then you have to, like, go through profiles of other people you might be looking to date and send them messages that, in my case, were highly personal or personalized, you know, one-on-one, like, starting from scratch. I know some people who, you know, made a pretty nice message that was the majority bulk of their email, and then bookended it with, you know, personal parts.
So it's like the shotgun plus approach. It's like
Yes.
you send I guess it's more efficient because you want to fake that, I don't know, personal touch a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think it was bad for this person to try it. I think it earned him some success, and he ended up happy in the end anyway, so.
One thing I've noticed, and maybe this will help us transition to the offline dating part, or, you know, sort of using both methods, is that online, I feel like there's still this etiquette that the guy approaches you first. He sees your profile, he likes what he sees, he writes you an email. Whereas, and then as the girl, you have 10 emails a day that you get to choose from, who do I want to talk to, kind of thing. Whereas in the real world, when you go out to a bar now or something like that, guys seem very shy. They just don't want to approach you anymore. It's very rare to find a guy that will come up to you and say, "Can I buy you a drink? What's your name?"
Tell me about it. I've never had a guy come up to me.
Well, see, this is the female perspective, but like, it's very rare, and typically the guys that do that are, I can't curse, can I?
You can.
Pompous holes.
Whoa.
Like, they're just
Hey.
way overly confident, and they think they're the shit. And it's like, I'm gonna go up to this girl and I'm gonna take her home with me. And so those are the guys that are approaching you in bars now, and not the genuine nice guys, because it's almost like they know they can go home and go online and sort of hide behind this computer in order to reach out to you.
I think that actually goes back to what I was saying before about us growing up on the internet. For people our age,
Yeah.
you know, we've known it from at least high school for many of us, and throughout college and all that. So really being behind an avatar online somehow, or an email address, or an AOL instant message box, if you ever use that, you know, that's really a thing.
I was thinking about this in the context of our discussion with Amy from Career Services about networking, and how you know, it's really easy to cold email someone, and it's a lot harder to walk up to that person and introduce yourself. And maybe one of the downsides of growing up online is that we don't have as much practice with the sort of social skills that maybe the previous generation had.
Yeah, we have to force ourselves to get out there. Now, you know, there whole conferences online that you never have to talk to anyone and still get benefits out of it. Whereas if you went to a real conference, well, an in-person conference, I should say, you don't get much out of it unless you are talking with other people fairly regularly, at least.
Yeah, I think it's really telling too. Like, you're an expert on Japan, right, Jason?
Oh God, don't call me an expert, because then I have like PhD experts in samurai history or something. I don't know.
You've been to Japan. You enjoy Japan's culture and
Parts of it, yes.
Yes. Well, of course. You can't. I mean, that's a huge generalization. But I guess I was looking. I heard of that there's a term for teenagers who shut themselves in from the world and only interact digitally.
Are you asking me for this term?
I'm asking you, yeah, because I can't remember what it is.
I don't know.
I don't know.
What it is. No, I don't.
But there's like a name for that.
It's kind of a common character in Japanese stories, like anime and manga, for someone to be a shut-in, and nowadays they're kind of like the hackerish person who is on the computer the whole time and doesn't want to be with anyone. But eventually someone does sneak into their lives and warms them up a little bit and reaches them in and brings them out. So, but that's beside the point.
Well, because like for me, the whole purpose of even doing online dating is to actually meet in person, correct? To actually do it beyond the interface of the computer. So, for me, that's the most important part. Doing the whole search online is useful because you get to figure out what you want on the screen before actually meeting this person. But I think the most important part of dating and finding a potential partner is the chemistry. And you just can't tell that unless you're actually out there in person doing the offline dating.
For sure. Like, there are so many people who look amazing on paper, and I'm sure they are amazing, but when you get together, if there's not really anything going for the two of you together, it's not really worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think, studying fruit fly courtship, I've come to believe that, love and even like is a biological process. You have to sort of connect with that person, whether it's pheromones or whatever. It's this sort of intangible just draw that you feel to that other person, and you just can't understand that online. The only way to do it is by meeting someone in person. And sometimes, as our parents used to do it, that's the best way to meet people, because even if you don't have things in common, it's that chemistry that draws you towards that person and will keep you together because you just love them to your core, even though, your husband likes car racing and you just can't smell the stand of burnt rubber. But still, you can stay together because you just have that connection.
That's a really good point.
No. I guess we talked a little bit about, the sort of intermediate goal of online dating is to meet the other person. But that's not the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal is to find a partner.
We would hope.
Maybe. I mean, but this is the issue, right? The issue is not everybody's looking for the same thing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And trying to figure out what people are looking for is like the majority of what dating is about.
Yes.
Right? Trying to figure out what each other's biological needs and wants are.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, so are online dating sites just a way to high throughput screen?
Well, did it
dates?
save you time?
Do you
feel like you were going on dates with people of quality whom you would have really enjoyed meeting in the real world otherwise?
Yes. For the most part, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
same
I didn't have a bad date at all. Some were just like, okay, we're not really
I had some
drawing
bad
on
ones.
this, so let's finish up our coffee and have a good one after, right?
But out of it, even though, I dated some people for a while through online, but in the end, out of my dozen or so dates, maybe even more that I went on, maybe 2 dozen, but I ended up with 2 really great guy friends. I dated them for a while. We realized, it just wasn't there. But they're, like, my good friends now. And I know I can always call them if I needed to We hang out when we're like in close proximity, like, and if that's all that online dating gave me, I'm totally satisfied with that.
Because you wouldn't have met them otherwise, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, odds are.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Online too, you can meet people that are totally different from you.
That's right. So, I mean, I guess the relevant comparison is how to meet people in offline mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the most common way people meet each other that way is through friends of friends. So like the extended network that you have. And so in a lot of ways, it's really similar to the same advice we would give you to go out and network about finding, a career.
Really, a lot of dating is a lot of networking, right? It's the same deal, straight down to like job applications. But we won't extend this metaphor too long. So sorry, Nikhil, I totally interrupted you.
Yeah, we're all gainfully employed in that sense. Or something, I don't know. Metaphor breaks down at some point.
Yeah, so how else do we offline date? Besides finding friends of friends and...
Well, for me, I tried volunteering.
Oh, that's a good one.
I mean, I thought this was going to be a way to find people, but there aren't a whole lot of guys that are actually volunteering out there. So guys, if you're listening and you want to meet girls like to volunteer. So go out and work at the soup kitchen or build a home or go help some poor animals animals over the weekend.
And help yourself.
Yes, and help yourself find a lady.
And help that lady find you.
Or guy.
We're
here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whoever you need to
Kelly,
find.
You shouldn't just write off half of the human population. There are plenty of cool girls out there, too.
Okay. I could put vice versa at the end.
But girls don't volunteer. If you're looking to...
Yeah, girls, there's no guys out there volunteering.
Tried that.
So where are the guys then, Kelly? Where do you go to find quality men?
Yeah, where do you...
Well, I don't really have great advice on that because I am currently very single right now. Very single.
Maybe some listeners of this podcast
Hey.
will call Kelly.
Hey, I like mountain men. If you got a beard, I'm cool.
Well, that's the problem. You love these mountain men. How are you supposed to
You're
go
not
find
in
a mountain man?
mountains.
I know.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of New
That's the problem.
Jersey.
I got a location problem.
There's some hills here.
But, what were we talking about? Where else?
Yeah, we're an offline date because I don't
Where to
actually
offline
have
date?
that much experience outside of bars.
Yeah, bars. Like, where else do you go?
Which, honestly, not
Sporting
really.
events.
Yeah.
It was not very successful for me. I think I maybe had one date out of a bar meet with someone, but otherwise, my offline dating partners had been friends of friends.
Yeah,
I just
friends
met
of friends.
randomly. Like they just brought them to one of our
Right.
get-togethers.
Same for me. I feel
Yeah.
like my extended network has been the source of my girlfriends.
So LinkedIn.
My
Yeah.
family's introduced me to a few people. Worked a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe that's a screen though. If your family likes them a lot.
Exactly. If family's important to you and your family is saying, we like this guy, you should try and date him, maybe you should.
And you might learn about what your parents want for you.
Yeah. And then your parents can learn for their next time that you don't like this. So.
Yeah. Beards required.
Beards required. Or at least some good scruff. Love some scruff.
Plaid shirt and an axe, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Lumberjack. It's cool.
The bear trap, maybe? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my god, did I tell
On
you
his
I saw a
forearm,
450-pound bear the other week?
No.
He was caught in a bear trap up in the Poconos, and where we were at,
no.
they let him go. God, this thing was huge. 450-pound black bear. Crazy. Turned me on.
That's right. That's right. You bears out there.
Yeah.
Speaking of all types of bears,
Yeah.
not just black bears, right?
Yes.
Okay. Whatever types of bear.
I've also heard too, this is a good, I don't know if it's a good suggestion because I've tried it a few times and haven't really, but you never know. The supermarket, right, in one of those stupid Cosmo magazines or something, that when you guys go to the supermarket, single guys go to the supermarket,
Yes.
they go on Friday nights before the weekend because they need to stock up on beer for the weekend, right?
Or they're out on dates.
They could be out on dates too. But those are not the ones that you want because they might.
No, you do. Those are the ones you want.
But those might be the ones that are being girlfriend up that weekend.
Tricky.
So maybe the liquor store is the better place.
Liquor store might be a good place to go hang out because that's more targeted.
Right. You want the party people.
Yes, you want somebody that's gonna have fun.
And maybe they'll invite you to their party.
Maybe.
The local arcade. Dance Dance
Okay.
Revolution machine. That's where I spent my nights in high school. Worked like a charm.
Well, what about your lab or department?
Oh, hell no.
Oh.
No. Bad experiences.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can talk about that for a little bit.
Okay. I feel like I haven't really spoken too much about my experiences.
Sure.
So,
go ahead.
I've made two of the most common mistakes I think other graduate students make, and I'm calling it a mistake because that's my opinion, so take that as you will.
It was a mistake for you.
It was a mistake for
when
me.
you did it.
And there were two different relationships. One was with a person in the department, and that ended badly and is slightly awkward since we still see each other pretty often. It's not as awkward as it could be, but
Time heals wounds.
yeah. And the other was an undergraduate who worked in the lab next door. And yeah, there was a maturity gap there. And I think for a while my loneliness trumped what I knew would eventually be a failing relationship. Like, it clearly wasn't working.
Well, how about, while you're in this relationship with somebody who's in your department, what are the benefits of having that person in your department while you're in that relationship?
Well, I think the first benefit is that there was no effort that went into meeting these people because they're just people you're around to begin with. And so there's less effort on the front end of finding that person. But once you found them, I think there are a couple of dangers. One is you see them a lot, all the time, and you're forced to see them because you're of the proximity, right? So if things don't work out, you're going to have to live with that proximity after the fact. And so that's one big concern. Another issue is that, if you are two really smart people who work on the same thing, and you have the same stress and the same sort of external pressures from your courses or your general exams or your research, you're going to be unbalanced as a couple because you're going to be hit with the same stress at the same time.
But you don't see that as a benefit that you can both understand each other at the same time?
It's a trade-off, right? I guess you do kind of empathize a little better because you're literally in the same shoes as the other person. But at the same time, I think having a little, hedging your if the other person has
Well, you're trying to build that balance, right? That you're not both stressed about the same thing at the same time. You want someone to be in a bad mood and the other person to be in a semi-good mood so that you can help that other person through it, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. It's exactly right. And the other thing is, it's this issue of depth versus breadth. So you can kind of talk to this person a lot about one thing, but then in a way, your mutual interest kind of defines your relationship. So you're both scientists. That's how you define yourself, and that's how you define, your science couple, right? And that works for a lot of people. There are plenty of successful science couples out there. But I think the trade-off is you lose some of the breadth of the relationship. Some of the things that I've really enjoyed, with my current girlfriend, she's very passionate about birds and ornithology. And she's been sharing that with me, taking me bird watching and all these things. And I've learned a whole lot from her, and it's really enriched my life in a big way. And, if she was a neuroscientist too, we'd geek out about the brain, but then it would just be us trying to prove who was smarter than each other instead of, actually sharing and learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
It's always good to have something to teach your partner.
Right.
Something new and interesting to open their eyes to. You have something to offer them.
I know, Kelly, we've talked a little bit about this experience you've had where sometimes men find your intelligence intimidating.
Yeah.
I think that's related, right? Because you have so much to teach them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think not only in terms of just, knowledge and facts, but I've also experienced a lot of things. A lot of those things have been through science and my passion for the outdoors and things like that. So I just have a lot to share in general, which I think can be very intimidating. So it's like the guys that I've dated have either been PhDs or high school students, like people that have only gotten their high school degree. Because it's those guys in the middle that have gotten 4-year degrees that understand what a PhD is and are intimidated by it because they think that I'm smarter than them, even though, you know, he has a lot to share with me also. It might not be knowledge and factual, but like, you know, that balance, that he has some activity that he likes to do that he can show me. But it's like I can never get beyond the first couple dates with a guy who has a 4-year degree because he just sees me on this pedestal of knowledge, and it's like, okay, I'm not really that smart. It's just I've worked hard to get here, and this is sort of in my career goal as the next step. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm smarter than you. It's just that this is, in terms of my goals, this is what I have to do to get there. But, and then dating PhDs also, it then turns into this sort of battle of the minds, and that every single conversation that you have with this person has to be intellectual, and you have to choose the right words and mean the right thing all the time, and it's tiring to have to like constantly be on your toes when all you want to do with that person is just relax on the couch and not talk about science anymore. So yeah, I've found it very difficult to sort of find my place in terms of what I want for my partner's intelligence to be able to have an intelligent conversation when I want it, but also to be able to turn that off when I don't want it.
So, I think maybe the flip side of that is that it's a really useful screening tool for you. Because the guys who are going to date you are going to be the ones who aren't intimidated by your forwardness or your intelligence. And that's what you want, right?
Yeah,
You want someone who's not scared of you.
Yes.
Or scared to talk to you, or you know. And maybe they do think that you're smarter than them. But if they're okay with that, that's fine.
Yeah. And there's definitely been a few, and they've been successful relationships, and we've learned a lot from each other and everything. But it's for a while there, especially doing the online dating thing, you know, when you approach this person for the first time, and that's what you talk about. You talk about what you do on your first date. So to sort of lead with that, it didn't work for quite a while. And I had to sort of learn to back off that part of me on the first couple dates to be able to get through that point of the intimidation so that he gets to know me before I really let loose on my lofty goals and all the things I've done, like, you know, with my life and my career and all that kind of stuff.
So part of that, because I kind of experienced something similar when I was dating, and maybe to a similar extent right now with my girlfriend, is part of that maybe not being able to relate what you do on a daily basis to what they do on a daily basis often, right? So, like, in my situation, I go into lab and I do these science-y things and read these big research papers and have to have fairly intellectual conversations about this scientific problem with my coworkers. And then I get home and I can talk to Jackie, and she has problems that I can relate to because I've been in school. Like, I've been a high school student. She's a high school teacher. So she can relate things like writing up tests and such, but I can't really relate to her, like, what I'm doing in my lab. Like, I can say the general thing, oh, I'm looking at gene expression in an embryo, and that's about it. Right?
Yeah.
So do you find that is kind of a similar problem when you're dating?
I mean, it might be something that it's hard for even us to recognize as PhD students, that, you know, they always say, like, you know, scientists are terrible communicators. We just don't know how to talk to
anyone. PhD in Progress podcast.
So I think it takes some practice to be able to relate the things that you do to other people in your life. And I think sometimes when you've been stuck in this realm of graduate school and learning to talk the way that we do around each other in graduate school, to all of a sudden be thrown, into a date with a lawyer or a construction worker or a teacher, it's like you just sometimes you get stumbled up on your words because you just don't even know what to talk to them about because you're so used to just talking about science all the time.
Yeah.
And so it might not even be something that like we're recognizing that we're doing. It seems natural and normal to us, but to other people it's like, whoa, you're throwing out big words here. But
yeah. I definitely get in trouble for sounding too logical. And that's part of my problem. Or I wouldn't say it's a problem, it's a challenge I face, because like when I'm doing science, I think logically, I think of the progression of problems and where I can fix them, and sometimes a relationship doesn't really need the analytical and problem-solving skills that a PhD student might.
often just I don't know, a friendly ear to listen is enough in a lot of cases.
Very true. Which is kind of one of the big problems of maintaining a relationship and work-life balance, which maybe we should talk about a little bit.
Sure.
Maybe I should stay out of this conversation because I seem to not be able to maintain a relationship.
There's something in our culture where we think a relationship isn't successful if it ends, right? I don't think that's the case. I think relationships they can be successful if you think it is. If you've learned something from it, if you've grown a little bit, it's not a failed relationship. It just ends.
Just like those not failed projects in your lab, right?
Yeah, right.
There are things that you took risks on that, weren't. You probably learned something from the experience. So, yes.
You didn't get ultimately what you wanted out of it, but you learned a little something.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to, I guess, work-life balance and maintaining relationships. Somebody once told me that you can't just be 50% partners in a relationship. You have to put in more than 50% to get 100. So the math doesn't add up. Yeah.
So this is where the logic falls out and the emotional comes in. Yeah.
I need that.
And I think part of that is, we have this bias where we tend to discount other people's actions. So you are aware of every single thing that you're doing at all times, but you're not always aware of all the things that the other person is doing at all the times. And so even though they're working towards a relationship, they're not always making you aware that they're working towards a relationship. And so to balance that out, I think you need to put in more than you expect to. And so I guess to put this in context, I'm in a relationship that involves a lot of long distance. So my girlfriend does field work in Asia, and she's there for months at a time. And so it's really hard because there is a work component to keeping it going, maintaining what we built for those periods of time where she's away. And taking the time out of your day, scheduling time to call, Skype, tell each other stories about what's going on.
I think, that's a big part, is scheduling time to work on your relationship, especially for people who are successful and professional and people like us, where we have to schedule our time pretty deliberately in order to get, half of what we want done. And a relationship's no different out of that. So be sure to work on that. Think of, my girlfriend and I, we have to deliberately use Google Calendars because we have so much stuff going on all the time that some weeks we know we won't even see each other. Even though we live in the same apartment, we won't see each other essentially until the weekend because I'm doing a late lab experiment. She's a school teacher, so she leaves early, so back and forth a lot. But you have to make it part of your life. There's kind of like this thought in life coaching, if you want to call it that now, but there's not so much of a work-life balance. It's all just in the same thing. This thought's not really coming out well.
It's okay. We can
So I'll
roll back
delete
the
that.
tape.
Yeah, whatever.
No, but I think scheduling time is important, and one way that I've managed to make it work is to spend an excess of time with my girlfriend when she's actually in the country and with me physically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when she's here, we basically spend all our free time together.
Yeah.
And when she's gone, you know, it doesn't actually make up for it, but it feels better.
Well, then you have memories to talk about when you're cramming all that stuff in when you're actually in the same location. Then you have things to talk about when you're away. Oh, remember that time? Remember when you said this? Like,
Right.
it by spending the excess time, you're getting the excess of memories and connections to continue it while you're not making those connections.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah. And the other thing about scheduling time is it's always important to have something to look forward to. So like you said, like the weekend, like that time when you will have, opportunity to hang out with each other. Jackie.
You, Jackie.
Yeah.
Jackie, you.
Yeah.
And the cat. John Cougar Mellon cat. Who,
How's his health?
He's pretty good,
Yeah. Okay.
thankfully.
Good. So have we covered it all? Is that all there is about dating in grad school?
That is not all there is about
Yeah.
dating in grad school. There's so much to talk about. It could probably be its own podcast, really.
Oh my god, how much regret.
Its own show.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about speed dating in Jersey City.
Oh, yeah. So,
Oh.
yeah, this story. Not many people know about this story. And now the world will know.
Mhm.
So, when was this, Nicole? It was like our second or third year.
Valentine's
Second
Day.
year. Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Must have been second year.
Mm-hmm.
So there was an event in Atlantic City that was a speed dating event, and it was free to all guys. So I told Nikhil, like, hey man, there's a speed dating event that's free to all guys in AC. Let's just do it. It was like the weekend. It's just like a couple hour drive from where we were.
So you went down there specifically for the speed dating event.
Yeah.
You didn't tell me this before.
Well, I went to go to Atlantic City because I've only been there. That was like my first time to Atlantic City.
Revelations.
You.
Yeah, I went because I was like, all right, because I don't think I went to AC before either. Definitely not on my.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there was some other.
Well, and there was a wine
yeah.
tasting. There was like
Oh, it was a
music
wine tasting
thing.
too. Yeah, so it wasn't
Okay.
just
It wasn't
speed
just
dating.
speed dating. There was like
Yeah.
it was like a package deal or something like that. That was
Okay.
free to guys, but you got free wine, free speed dating, and
Yeah.
free like cover bands. But we didn't know they were bad going in.
Yeah, but the wine was pretty good.
Yeah.
So the event on a whole was not
We got
bad.
wine glasses.
We got wine glasses.
Yeah.
But onto the speed dating event, which was definitely unique. I'd never done it before. Nikhil had never done it before.
Yeah, we were both single. We'd both wanted to try meeting people outside of the bubble at
Yeah.
the university.
We were young. We were 23, 22.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we gave it a shot.
We gave it a shot, and it was... So, here's the problem. It was kind of sponsored by the pseudo-celebrity from cable TV. He's a very handsome dude. So, all the girls who went there to go see him, and not so much speed date. Ladies, I shouldn't say girls, because there was a
Women.
range, women.
Yeah.
I would say they're mostly ladies.
I mean, there
They seemed polite.
were a lot of them, though. I think that's the key point, is
Yes.
that the
It was
ratio of
overwhelmingly-
women to men
Yeah.
was greater than 3-1.
Yeah,
Really?
so when the guys were going around, it was not uncommon. So you think of speed dating where you sit down in a chair across from someone else,
Yeah.
and you talk for like 2 minutes, maybe at most. And then they ring a bell and you go to the next person. There were like, over 100 women there, and maybe 20 dudes. Maybe, at most.
Oh my
So
God.
each time we went to another table, there was a group of 5 women there, or so.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
It was a group date.
It was a group
an entire
date.
circle of friends, because the women usually
Yeah.
knew each other when they were sitting at
So
the same
who
table.
are you supposed to speak to? Like,
And how are you supposed to speed date with 5 people you gotta talk to in 5 minutes?
and that's besides the point of it being in a fairly loud, like, nightclub setting. It was just odd.
It was
I
not what I imagined speed dating would be.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
it usually is. I don't think... it was representative of what speed dating is to many people. So,
Well, I guess it's sort of hit or miss because I've done speed dating once,
Yeah.
but I did it here at a
Oh.
grad student event.
all right.
My first year here.
Mm-hmm.
Total opposite.
There were probably 3
Way too many
women.
men. 2 to 3 women. It was just like me and my girlfriend. That's about it.
Oh,
For this
boy.
whole room of men that are just like
So you do the group
drooling.
thing too, because that would have been great.
No,
You
no,
were 30.
we did go around one by one, but it was like, you know, the guys got
Poor you.
breaks kind of thing. But yeah, that was totally opposite and same thing. Like even attempting to date someone in your department, in your field, and you know the same. It was just like, no, thank you, I'm done, I'm out of here.
So when we realized that this was the case, we just kind of lowered our expectations of what to get out of this whole thing. I think this is where I sort of discovered the power of how you define yourself or how you frame yourself. Because in the first couple of group dates, people would ask, "Oh, so what do you do? Who are you?" Right? That's the first question you ask. And
Study neuroscience.
yeah, I'm a PhD student. I'm a doctoral candidate.
Nerd. See,
As
know,
you pull your pants up
Yeah.
past your
at
belly
this
button.
fancy university. And then it slowly transitioned to, I really enjoy teaching. I teach a lot. I teach undergraduates. And so there was a little shift there, and then, by the end of the night, I was... Or
I'm a
by the end of
guru.
by the end of the session, I was like, I play music in a band, and you could probably guess which opener led to the best conversation. And it's usually the ones where I'm talking about my hobbies or my interests, like cooking and music, and less about, what I do professionally and how smart am I as a PhD student.
I guess that's the same sort of thing that I've discovered, maybe in a more spread out time version of it, because I've had to do individual dates, but that you kind of don't lead with what you do, because it kind of shuts people off, because we have a very specific job that we do, a very specific topic that we study. And to open up with things like that I'm a musician or I like to teach sort of opens up the opportunity to have a conversation with that person and not shut them off immediately.
Very true.
Yeah.
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 No.
Moral of the podcast: don't define yourself by what you do.
And if you do lie, no.
Didn't we discuss this in earlier podcasts too, that you were saying like that we shouldn't
Oh yeah,
define
that's
by what we do?
I feel like that's a major theme. You shouldn't you shouldn't lead off by saying, I am a grad student. That's the only thing, although that's the only thing I ever do. So I'm trying to fix that.
It's hard to break that habit.
It's so hard. Because what would I call myself? I'm a podcaster. I like playing StarCraft too.
That's even when we went to
It's even worse, I
a
think.
science communication symposium in the fall. That's what they told us also, that when we meet new people, don't say I'm a scientist, say I'm a science teacher, I'm a science communicator. And then that opens up just a waterfall of questions from the other people, because they know that you want to communicate with
Isn't
them.
it funny, though, that there's a huge distinction by scientist and science communicator?
Yeah.
Like, aren't they supposed to be doing the same thing? Maybe different audiences.
They're supposed to be.
Yeah.
In reality, not so much.
I just, when I picture in my head, a scientist, I think lab coat or, guy at the chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
Guy, yeah, because, that's the sad truth.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And
What do you think,
when I
communicator?
think science communicator, I think, like...
I think like giving lectures, like being in this group of people,
Yeah,
and
I think like
Cosmos.
bloggers, I think people on Twitter and on the internet, typing away at their computer
Yeah.
about the cool shit that
you
they
think
saw.
Bill Nye,
Yeah,
I
right?
think like TED Talks or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
Right. Bill Nye, I think, is...
Which is also kind of skewing.
Or Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's like...
Or the older generations, Carl Sagan.
Right.
Those are the ideal like science communicators. Doesn't
I'm
we're
the
all-
next. I'm the
we're
next
all-
Carl Sagan. That's what I do.
Right.
So today we talked about some of the pros and cons of online dating versus offline dating. We also talked about a couple mistakes that we experienced, although definitely hesitant to call them mistakes. They're learning opportunities, right? Each date you go on, each person you meet, that's kind of an opportunity to meet someone.
Mhm.
new
Another
and
notch
learn.
on the belt.
Exactly. All right.
Just kidding.
And then we also delved into maintaining relationships and work-life balance, and I think all these things could be a whole other episode, and we'll probably make it that.
Yeah, we can
build
do
lots of content. So send us your questions and comments, and we'd love to talk about it more because this is kind of a fun topic, I think.
Yeah, and everybody's got different experiences. I mean, we didn't even talk really about horror stories. I got some horror stories.
All right, that'll be maybe Valentine's Day episode.
we can talk about it when we go back to the Neuro building.
But yeah, so send us your experiences, and perhaps we can send you our own little nuggets of advice if you're in need.
Yes.
Thanks to Nick Hill and Kelly for getting personal with their stories. We know there's a lot to talk about on the subject of love, so let us know what you'd like to hear next. We'll be recording a parenting and grad school episode soon, so send us questions you'd like answered or experiences you'd like shared. If you really loved us, you'd leave us an honest review and rating in the iTunes store. This is the single best way to repay us for all the hard work that goes into producing the show. We also want to get to know you, so say hi in the comments at phdinprogress.com/dating, and let's see if there's any chemistry between us. If you're a little more social, reach us on Twitter at PhD Podcast, or if you're more on the shy side, send us a private email, feedback@phdinprogress.com. Of course, you can find all this really attractive information at phdinprogress.com.
Hey, I like mountain men. If you got a beard, I'm cool.
Well, that's the problem. You love these mountain men. How are you supposed to
You're not
find
in
a mountain
mountains.
man?
I know.
Yeah.
We're in the
That's
middle of
the
New
problem.
Jersey.
I got a location problem.